Deltarune has been through a lot. Ever since its release on October 31st, 2018, the game has received numerous updates that help fix bugs, add in some continuity, or more. This video will be dedicated to discussing all of the changes that have been made to Deltarune ever since its release on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Special thanks to the Deltarune Wiki and the Cutting Room Floor for keeping track of these changes. Also, an extremely small percentage of you guys are actually subbed to my channel. If you want more indie game based content and more Deltarune videos, then subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Deltarune Chapter 1 was initially released on October 31st, 2018. This version is slightly different to the release that came out with Chapter 2 on September 2021, so I'll be referring to this version as the Survey Program version, as that's what it was called upon release. The Survey Program version of Deltarune only got one update, which was with the release of the console version on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4. The biggest thing that was changed was replacing some text when you received the hot chocolate. Originally the text said, "Chris got the hot chocolate," but it was changed to, "You got the hot chocolate." This is probably done for reasons relating to the story, as there are a lot of theories about the story being headed in a direction where there's a conflict between the player and Chris, and that they're actually different characters. There were a few other fixes, a version number being added, and the debug menu. Another thing that Deltarune fans will know is this stray pixel in the King boss fight. This pixel was noticed online and people loved talking about it. This was fixed within the console version, but this stray pixel right here was not fixed. Maybe in the next release of Deltarune, all the stray pixels will be removed from this boss fight. On September 17th, 2021, Deltarune Chapter 2 was released and bundled on Steam with a newer version of Chapter 1. All of the fixes that were put into the console version of the games were added to the PC version, but there were several other changes that fixed continuity and more. The biggest change is to the library, which had its computer room door changed, as in Chapter 1 it was just a single door, but in Chapter 2 this was changed to double doors to look more like the first door to the Dark World. Quite a large quality of life change that was made was the wrist protector being built into the game. In the Survey Program build of Deltarune, the wrist protector was an item that could only be obtained if you got to the question mark area in less than 8 minutes, and it would allow you to skip text by pressing C, assumedly being used for speedrunners, hence why it took 8 minutes to get it. This was likely done because it's a very convenient feature to have, and skipping text can actually make your wrist hurt. I was playing this for the footage and yeah, my wrist hurt after. Also, a fun fact about the name is it was likely inspired from Toby Fox's own real personal issues with wrist. This is outlined in the Deltarune Chapter updates. There was also a lot of text changed for various reasons, such as accidentally using the Undertale currency in some places rather than the Deltarune Dark Dollars, typos, changing due to some engine character thingy, Shadow Crystal being retconned, as well as rectifying a few issues with UI that wouldn't really make sense to be in the Chapter 1+2 version, and examples on screen right now. Let's now talk about the updates that Chapter 2 received. Now, as of writing and recording this video, it's August 2022, so if anything changes after this month, then Toby Fox released it purely just to spite me. The first update that was post-release, version 1.002, came out a day after the Chapter 2 released, which Toby hastily released due to a huge issue on PC where sometimes the game would crash when using controllers. Update version 1.003 was also similar in fixing controller-related bugs, so I won't talk about that too much. Version 1.004 fixed softlocks and crashes, which I'll try to show as many as I can on screen. Footage of them may be scarce, so it could just be like a Steam report or something. Update version 1.005 fixed a glitch where you couldn't quit the Giga Queen boss fight and were forced to play it until you win. Quality of life changes were added to this queen fight, so you kind of spawn closer to where the boss fight started and with full health. Upon losing to Spamtomneer, the player will now respawn before inserting a loaded disc, which means now the opportunity to backtrack instead of immediately playing the boss again. And also a couple of other various bug fixes. Update 1.006 fixed an issue with Spamtom's Shadow Crystal not carrying over to Lightworld and being discarded glass. They also fixed Sweet Cap and Cake's attacks lasting a long time to kind of like get it in sync with the music. It also somewhat changed the way wrong warping works, making it difficult for casual players to find it, but still accessible for speedrunners. If you don't know what wrong warping is, I don't blame you, I didn't know what this was before. Wrong warping is when you do something with level transitions and it puts you into what was considered a default point in the next room. This can be anywhere from the center to a specific point in the room, and it's basically just used to save time in speedruns. And this was also the first update that tried to combat the Spamtom charge shot glitch, where if you'd press Z while holding down enter, you'd spam the shot. In this update, if the player shot 6 to 10 of these shots, Spamtom would become visibly angry and do more damage, and would continue to rise in damage if the player continued the glitch, although it would become more lenient depending on how much the player would die. Update 1.007 changed the soul in the bullet board, where now if you held down X, you would slow down, making dodging a little bit easier. Checking Chris's bed after completing Chapter 2 will instantly teleport you to the Cyberworld, similar to how it worked in Chapter 1. Lancer has new dialogue during the prologue of Chapter 2. The Spamtom Charger has been updated once again to make him subtly more difficult when you use it, which changes the order of some of his attacks among other changes. Ralsei's R action in the Spamtomneer boss fight allows you to pause the shield by pressing X, and Peepus now has 1% chance to spawn as Miss Peepus, which is honestly pretty adorable. Update 1.008 was a big patch, with Deltarune now being on the latest version of GameMaker, a new system of loading where when the user selects a chapter, it loads the sprites that are grouped within that chapter, instead of loading every single sprite that was in the game, which should reduce load times as well. As well as on consoles having this new loading screen, which is honestly very useful. I play this game on console sometimes, and after the Chapter 2 update I experienced a lot of stuttering when text or new sprites would load, so this is so good. The copyright year was also updated because, well, the slowdown in the bullet board that I mentioned earlier has been changed. Also now if you press X before going into the bullet board, it won't actually slow you down. A bug about start farming was patched. We also got some new dialogue upon defeat, which I'll show here. A glitch that speedrunners used to clip the rolling pottery was incorporated as a feature, which is honestly super cool because if you remember earlier I was talking about the wrong warping glitch being patched to kind of like make it more difficult for casual players to do, but keep the speedrunning alive. I'm really glad that Toby Fox has his mentality towards bugs that are useful in speedrunning. A bug with a present not appearing in Susie's room was patched, the classroom slightly changed, which I'll show here. They fixed a bug with music overlapping on consoles, and the saves were changed on console due to a bug where the PlayStation 4 saves were just corrupt under certain conditions. The VCR icons on Spamtomneer's fight were made a lot more consistent. Spamtomneer has a new smoke effect for his final attack, and the Yoki doll in Shawm's shop was changed. Yoki, for those who don't know, is a character from Temmie Chang's game Escaped Chasm, which I briefly talk about in this video about games like Undertale, so check that out if you want. Also subscribe. The description for Chris's act spell was updated. X/ and Turbo Dodge's TP was changed by 0.5 in order to avoid some rounding errors. The fluffy guard was changed to now actually refer to the balls of wool as balls of wool internally in the game's files, as before they were labelled as tiny Rolsies, which is actually from the beta of Deltarune, where the fluffy guard was in fact tiny Rolsies. The ending of the Spamton Neophyte now sets characters' health to 1 even if their health is below 1. The press F1 for help has been changed to be a bit more balanced and consistent. This typo was changed. The sweet Cap and Cakes fight pattern was changed to help speedrunners with the strategy, where runners will immediately down Chris so Rolsy and Sudi can learn R action and S action earlier. This was aided by Toby making it so that I attack Chris on the first, third and fifth turn always. And if you thought that was all the updates of 1.008, you are wrong. Turns out that this update accidentally introduced a save file bug due to the new loading system. Every room in Deltarune has its own value, and as it turns out this loading screen is its own room value, so let me try to explain this bug from my understanding. Toby added this loading room, which would be one of the first rooms in the list, which shifts all the other rooms down a number. This means that if you're moving into a room that was say 8, and now room 8 is a corrupt room because it moved down the list, you're now in a corrupt room. In version 1.009 this was sort of fixed. Now the game checks if the room you're in is a valid room. If it isn't, then it'll add 1 to the room list, which will hopefully put you in the right room, and it kinda solves the solution that it's created, and if it fails it'll keep adding 1 until it finds a valid room. This is more of a temporary fix from my perspective because now Toby has to make sure that every single room is in the correct order, or you may end up being placed in the wrong room. Anyways, 1.009 fixed a bug with save files putting in the wrong version of a room, an example being the empty version of Rolsy's castle when you actually have the full version of it. The game now saves in the version you're in, which I assume is an attribute in the save file. Some changes were made to the debug mode where you could enable it for chapter 2 if you loaded chapter 1 and exited quickly. It's now set to be disabled by default on the chapter select screen, and you can change the speed of the game in debug mode in chapter 1. It also made so inspecting with the bed in the castle dojo made the bed inspector thing appear on Noelle's bed, which apparently was previously accessible. Version 1.010 continued to fix the save issue, where now instead of adding 1 each time, it subtracts some 1 as well. I believe this is better fixed because now it can lead you into a somewhat familiar place rather than just a completely random room. Also, the Maze of Death was added into the valid rooms list. I'm not sure why it wasn't in the first place, that's a pretty important room. The game now avoids doing this check when a temporary save is loaded. I'm not sure what a temporary save is, but okay. And some other values were added into debug mode as well. You're probably saying, but Gelsey, yes that's how it's pronounced. Version 1.10 is the latest version of Deltarune. Well, sorta. If you go into Steam and go into the beta tab of the properties of Deltarune, you can notice a specific build of Deltarune that was made to help solve bugs with the Windows 7 version of the game. So all these updates that I mentioned are not on the current version of the PC build, and they might be on the console version, but no one is sure at the moment. Anyway, version 1.012, yes I skipped 11, fixes the game on Windows 7 by updating GameMaker to the latest version. Makes it so that the chapter select screen doesn't go into full screen randomly, that the volume has been changed across the chapters in an attempt to make them both standardized. The save system has been changed once again, now giving each save custom room IDs. I'm not sure what that does, but they've done that. The roller coaster trigger has been changed to be a bit bigger for entering the cutscene. A Rolsy soft lock was patched, and some queen bugs involving her music playing after she's been defeated being fixed. And also the final attack not happening sometimes was fixed. And a bug allowing some unknown inputs in the chapter 1 saving system was changed. Version 1.013 was released in the Steam beta branch of April 12, 2022 and was a minor update. Fixing a bug with the new save system, yes we're still talking about that, and that's all the update did. Version 1.014 was also extremely small, updating the chapter 1 loading system didn't apply with the new room IDs. Update version 1.015 fixed deadly weapons being drawn more consistently, a bug where the cheese maze would disappear upon starting the Snowgrave route, ignoring it and then aborting it in the cheese maze, and a bug being solved with the invincibility frames in the king boss fight, and some rendering issues of the queen boss fight in the city. And as of August 2022, that's all the updates that Deltarune has received. I hope you enjoyed this look through the development of Deltarune past its release date. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more indie game content, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.